Hello, ladies and gentlemen. A few days ago, or a week ago from here, we spoke about Fabiano Caruana's candidates preparation, as well as a few other players. We spoke about, of course, the Prague International Chess Festival, the American Cup, the St. Louis Masters, and of course Gukesh and what kind of form he's in. But Hikaru Nakamura has stepped up his candidates preparation. He played Awonder Liang in some candidates prep matches, two classical games, and then they played some rapid and blitz. We're just focusing on the classical portion of this matchup between the two in St. Louis because the candidates is a classical tournament. But the end result is very interesting, and we will discuss that at the very end. First game, Hikaru had the white pieces versus Awanda Liang, and Hikaru played e4. Now, it's very interesting because, I mean, if you go on to chess.com to look at this, it's called explicitly Hikaru versus Awanda candidates training match. So, is Hikaru giving away too much here? We get e4, e5, and I don't know what he spoke to Awanda. Did he say, please play this opening, where I would like to play the Italian with bishop to c5? Did he tell him to play that? Or are they just doing what they're doing? Hikaru's bringing his preparation, maybe not showing all the in-depth lines, but maybe just trying to get acquainted with classical chess. We have d3, d6, and now c3. Gioco pianissimo, quiet variation. We have h6, a4, bishop to b6, which is an interesting line because you're inviting this. You can't play it at the moment. White still has to commit to b4, but then a5 might be an option. So it's very interesting. So instead of that, Hikaru plays knight bd2. We get knight ge7, which is interesting. The knight never went to f6. It's now gone this way, which is interesting because it might look to go this way, and we have f5 and support this way with with short castles. But Hikaru here plays b4. We get a6, which is the best move. We have bishop to b3, dropping back, short castles, and now knight to c4, chasing the bishop back to a7. So far, Hikaru has spent 17 minutes and Awonder Liang about another 90 seconds more. So really not too much. They spent some time here on, Hikaru spent some time on c3 and so on, but that might just be moving about. So we have bishop to e3 offering the exchange. We have king to h8. b5 now from Hikaru, which he spends quite a bit of time on. He spends 16 minutes on b5. So already perhaps feeling a little bit of the pressure. We get this exchange. He takes with the pawn, which is very interesting. But in many lines, the knight goes here and here in the Italian. So you are preventing that, and you're opening your f-file. But I suppose you can try and now play d4, so it's not a bad recapture. But we get knight b8. Short castles. Knight b8 looks silly, but the knight is going to move again. So we have bishop to e6. We have rook to b1. We have a takes b5 now. A takes b5. Now, Awanda Liang's rook is just open. We get knight d7. Again, looking to perhaps go this way to put pressure. The knight's not on f6, so it's not exerting its normal pressure on e4. You might want to play this way. You might just want to be defending this, so you can play d5. A lot of flexible moves here for Awanda Liang. We get d4 from Hikaru. We get knight to g6. Because perhaps potentially looking for this trade and then putting the knight here on f4. We get now knight c to d2, queen to e7, and now queen to c2. Time still very much equal between the two players. We get knight to f6. So the knights have resumed their regular positions in the Italian, looking to go this way and this way, or this way, or this way, and so on. There is, this pressure, and it's still a very balanced position. We get bishop takes, queen takes, and b6. And this is what the Italian's always about. You do maneuver your pieces to the king side, but there's a lot of pawn mobility on this side of the board. Hikaru looking to soften everything up. Do you trade? Do you push? How far do you push? Do you go 2 squares? We get c6, rook to a1, offering a trade. Now knight to d7. Just being like, hey, how are you going to defend that? What are you going to commit to? Rook to a7 is what's chosen, which is fascinating because if you take here, I probably will not take the rook. I will take here. And now your knight is hit. You can go back. But then, something like d5, obviously, is h3. There's queen b3 offering a queen trade, but even a move like maybe rook b1 is not even that bad. So white gets some counterplay. So we get rook a b8, but now rook b1. Defending, knight to e7, now queen to b3, now d5. And now we're going to get some interesting stuff because there's still this pressure, but you know, we're cracking in here. e4 played by Hikaru, rook fc8, rook a5, queen g6, and Hikaru's got to be careful here because it looks like you can get away with taking this and your rook is here, but you've got to be careful and you can't get away with taking, but Hikaru does. He plays knight takes e5. He makes a mistake. We get knight takes e5, d takes e5, and queen g5. And Hikaru here has one move to try and defend himself. Otherwise, the position is very bad. He has to play queen to b2 to defend the knight. Instead, what he does is the second choice of the engine mode. It's much worse. He plays knight to f1. A second mistake. And Awonder Liang is better. Could you imagine Hikaru losing in his candidate's preparation? We get d takes e4, rook b5, and Awonder Liang here can play knight g6. Knight g6 would do the trick. Come in here, threaten to take, and all your pieces are staring into the butt of your own pawn. You've got rook, queen, rook, all staring at your own pawn. Like, what are they doing other than defending that? Okay, maybe this is exerting tiny bits of pressure. This rook is just, I don't know, doing what? Hikaru's pieces are doing something, you know. Sorry, Awonder's pieces are doing something. Hikaru's aren't doing any. But instead of that, he plays queen g6. Perhaps wanting to get out the way of some discoveries. But now we get rook to e1, queen to c6, and now knight to g3, and now Hikaru is perfectly fine. We get queen takes c3, we liquidate the queens, we lose e4, but we get rook to c2, rook to c5, we take on c5, we bring the knight back, we get the takes here, the rook eventually gets out, and we trade down into this knight endgame. And yeah, what can you say? They make a draw. So, just my quick thought on that game. Hikaru was under pressure. He was under pressure there for a minute. He was under pressure there and he had to defend accurately. There's not a lot to get from that game. It was a very solid game. They both played at like 95-96% accuracy. The next game's even higher percentage. But there might be a victory coming from that. Someone playing a really high accurate game. I imagine that there's not a lot to take from in terms of the actual chess played. I think this is just about Hikaru getting into the mode of playing classical chess. So now the colors are swapped. Awonder Liang has the white pieces. He plays e4 and Hikaru plays c5. Which is interesting. Because Hikaru is not a Sicilian player. Of course he knows the lines. But he's an e5 player. Generally speaking. He has played the Sicilian. But it's not his main repertoire. We get knight to f3. And we get d6. d4. C takes d4. Knight takes d4. And now knight to f6. So what Sicilian is he going to go for? He plays knight to c6. He goes for the classical kind of Sicilian here. We get bishop to g5, which is the Richter Rauser variation of the open Sicilian. Just like it's a warm-up game, so maybe he doesn't want something too tactical. I do not understand for the life of me why when knight to c3 was played, Hikaru did not go for this. Did not go for like a Najdorf-esque position. I don't get it. I don't get why he didn't go for a Najdorf, or even if not a Najdorf, like a queen, like almost like a Taimanov kind of thing, where you can have the knight on c3 or a6 or something. Like, I don't get it. Obviously, I don't think queen c7 in this move order is exactly correct. Like, you could play d6 first maybe or something. I don't get why you go for this Sicilian. I'm sure it's got its benefits, but it's very interesting because you allow bishop to g5. Now you have to play e6, queen d2, and now a6 comes anyway. So, you know, maybe the Najdorf, there's some things he wants to avoid. Long castles, bishop d7, and king b1. Thing is, if Hikaru wanted to avoid a fighting game, he shouldn't have played the Sicilian because he's going to have to attack this way, and white is going to attack this way. So we'll see. We get knight takes d4, this capture, and now bishop to e7, h4, queen c7, bishop to e2, and now b5. f4, bishop c6. Bishop takes f6, and g takes f6 from Hikaru. I cannot understand why this was not played. I understand you might be worrying potentially about either e5 or just losing this pawn. Losing the pawn is not that much of a problem, because here rook takes, and now you can just play like rook c8. And you're fine. You're fine. Yes, you might be worrying about like rook d1. But you can just play short castles, and you're completely fine as Hikaru. So g takes f6 is unnecessary. It's an unnecessary risk just to try and defend this d6 pawn. But there's only one way to punish it, and that is to play f5. f5, the only move. Because now you're asking lots of questions, because if they take, it's devastating. Taking is devastating because like knight d5 just crashes in. If you seek to remove the knight, I mean, e takes is fine, and then you're kind of cooked here, just a bit. So you've got to be careful. But Awonder misses it, and he plays bishop h5. I assume a similar idea, but what we get is queen a7, offering a queen trade. Queen d3 forces you back, but now queen c5 activates very nicely. Yes, you can play g4, but I've got rook c8. And my counterplay comes just in time. You play knight e2, and I have queen c4. Yes, you can play knight d4. I will trade the queens, and I will play bishop d7. And Hikaru is perfectly solid. He avoids castling to play king e7. Yes, you can get your knight to e3, but long term, I'm fine. Hikaru has navigated the position. He plays h6. Yes, you get knight to g4, but to what end? I will take. Now bishop b6. Now you get the knight in. Okay, that's fine. I'm just going here. I'm going to threaten to remove the defender of the knight. You can grab my bishop. I'm not phased at all. You might think, wait, hang on, doesn't this lose a pawn? Yeah, straight up. That's what happens in the game. But there's bishop takes g5, so you get the pawn back. Now rook hg1 attacks the bishop, but rook fc8. You take my bishop, I take your bishop. So we get bishop takes e6, king takes e6, and now rook takes g5. So Liang does try to snatch a pawn, but you can't really keep it. We get rook to f2. You have to give a check. I come forward, rook g7 check, and they're going to repeat moves and make a draw. King e5. I don't think king e5 was actually played. I think this is just them putting their kings on the squares to make the draw. I'm pretty sure. But yeah, and the reason you have to do this is because Hikaru's second rook is coming down, and you're pinned on the second rank. Well, your king's on the first, and you have pigs on the second, and they will force the draw, or they will win all your pawns. So you've kind of got to repeat moves and make the draw, and black can't like wonder this way because you're going to get checked, and then you're going to lose your stuff, and white is up a pawn at the end of the day. So yeah, a very fascinating game, I suppose. But ladies and gentlemen, that's not the end of the story. Hikaru Nakamura did lose this matchup. He finished with 4 out of 10 against Awonder Liang, who finished on 6 out of 10, obviously. So they made two draws in the classical chess portion of this matchup. But overall, in terms of the results, Awonder Liang won, I believe, the rapid portion 3-1. He beat Hikaru Nakamura 3-1. Hikaru winning 1 game. And then in the blitz portion, they drew 2-all. So, I don't know what kind of form Hikaru Nakamura is in. He didn't, like, the accuracy, I think, in those classical games is misleading. He did get himself out of pressure. But again, he's playing Awonder Liang. Not to disrepute Awonder Liang at anything or make him sound lesser than. He's only 27-19. In terms of rating, 2700, just over 2700, 2720. He's playing 2800 caliber players in the candidates. He's playing Chokyvara Sindarov. He's playing Anish Giri. He's playing Fabiano Caruana. And these players are highly, highly motivated. Maybe Hikaru is a favorite. I'm beginning to think that that's not the case. I think Fabiano Caruana is a favorite. You look at how he went and performed in the American Cup and the St. Louis Masters. I think he's definitely a favorite. I think Sindarov is if not a leading favorite, I would not be surprised if he won. Prague, I'm not sure. He didn't have a great title steal, but and he won last year, so it's very interesting. It's not like he's performed badly at the tournament. So it's very interesting. But as the days go on and we get closer to the candidates, I think Hikaru's chances are dwindling. He's going to need to put up a phenomenal performance. But I just don't see it anymore. I think Fabiano Caruana is the clear outright favorite. And then you've got a tier of guys just below that, which is where I would currently place Hikaru, along with Sindarov and perhaps Giri and Prague. So there's a group of 4 of them, with Fabi as the favorite. And then below that, you've got Esipenko, you've got Wei, who even then, he's a strong favorite. He's like my dark horse. He could do quite well. We just haven't seen enough of him. And then you've got Matthias Blubom. I will do, a formal candidates video, previewing everything, giving my formal predictions and everything. But this training match that Hikaru has had, I don't know what it's revealed, but Hikaru Nakamura fans, how do you feel about his preparation? What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below.